I want to say is really finances is the third person in your marriage.
I'm the numbers cruncher. That's my strength. I remember numbers. Philip does not remember. Do not give him a number. He will not remember a number. We have 3 kids, babe, right?
I mean, I know I do things that annoy Tessa. I know how to annoy Tessa.
I think for us, we didn't have any financial differences to overcome. We were just both stupid.
Just keep me out of the casinos because I'm a gambler.
She's the gambler, really.
Really?
Bet it all on black.
You're listening to the Life in Action podcast, Faith, Finance, and Family. Here are your hosts, Mike and Phillip.
Philip, back in the studio with the wives.
Oh, it's going to be fun.
Miss Tessa, Miss Laura. This is going to be a fun episode.
Hey.
I actually wanted to have this episode in a bed like the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory grandparents.
All 4 of us.
Yeah, but Tessa shot that down. So.
Yeah, that was weird.
Yeah,
weird,
little weird.
We'd have to watch the sheets and all that stuff.
Well,
Cool. It was good to have y'all back, ladies.
Thank you.
absolutely. Finding a way, getting us all together, talking about faith, talking about family, talking about finances, and we want to get into a little bit of that finances because I think it's going to fit well with what we want to talk about today. You know, marriage, it's a miracle. I mean, our marriages are a miracle.
Absolutely.
Here we are, been married for 36 years. I believe you guys, what was it, 24?
24.
24 years. That's a miracle to be married that long. And a lot of things have to happen. A lot of things have to click.
It's a lot of work.
That's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
A lot of things to manage. A lot of things that have to intertwine and somehow, with the grace of God, work. And so I thought it'd be cool to talk about some of those things, and we'll see what we get to, but talk about cultural differences.
Yeah.
You know, Tessa, here you are, Cajun girl.
Yeah.
Mike, you know, Mexican from down in the valley. That's a little bit of cultural differences.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
As far as cultural for Laura and I, you know, I've had this incredible, all this family, you know, all this huge family. And for her, it was just really her and her mom. So you got these cultural differences. You got these family differences. You've got, how about financial differences? You know, what was that like? Who came from money? Who didn't come from money? Let's talk a little bit about that. And then faith. What was that like?
Yeah.
You know, I grabbed a hold of a little Baptist girl. And so who really didn't have any clue concerning the Holy Ghost, those type of things. And so let's start off with, because I'm sitting here and I'm looking at Mike, and he got that, he's the brownest skin of us 4. You know, for you guys, cultural, you know, what was it like for you guys as far as just that world?
What was your home like?
Yeah, what was your home like?
My home, I was Little Lord Fauntleroy.
Your parents were married, though, right? Yeah, they were together.
My parents were married. They had a love story made for television.
Yeah.
My dad was 19. My mom was 14. They met at the Hemisphere. Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
Well, they met at the Hemisphere in San Antonio. And
She lied about her age.
Yeah. So I think she was 16 or 17 when they got married.
Wow.
Yeah.
But so they couldn't have any children, so I got adopted. My brother got adopted. And we wound up in this very mixed cultural home because my mother was from Vidor, Texas.
Yeah.
My dad was from South Texas. So we had this Hispanic, Cajun, you know, East Texas cult thing going on.
Okay.
You know, it was like Mexican food, and then we'd go for Easter, we'd go and have Cajun food and gumbo and stuff. So I had the best of these both worlds.
Yeah, you did.
So I loved the Cajun culture. And so my mother, I grew up, when I was a kid, I had a country accent, believe it or not. I talk like this. When I was a kid. Oh, yeah, it was funny. So we had a maid growing up. So the maid cooked and cleaned and got us up for school and got us dressed, and you know, and so that was the life that I grew up in. And
You had a maid?
I had a maid. Yeah.
You were living your best life, buddy.
That's what I thought everybody had a maid.
Kind of like a nanny maid.
A nanny maid. Okay.
Yeah, we had a au pair.
Oh, my
So how old
gosh.
were you when you got your car?
I was 16 when I got a
16,
car.
had a car, popular in high school,
Nice
doing your
car.
dramas and all that, just having at it.
Yeah, man, I loved life. I had a good Christian. We grew up in a good Christian home. Went to youth group, did all that stuff. You know, it was a good home life. I had a little brother who had spinal bifida, and so we grew up taking care of him and just like being protective of him. And so then when I got a little bit older, our home life kind of turned a little bit, and it got a little bit confusing and difficult. And that's when I went away. And so that's a long story, but
Another episode.
that's another
What about you,
episode.
Tessa?
That's
What's-
therapy. Grew up here in Sulphur, Louisiana, with my mom, my dad, and I had 3 other siblings. Was not the posh life that Mike had. So, you know, my parents worked. Of course, his parents did too. But my dad worked. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, and you know, came from very little. And my dad worked hard, and you know, got my car at 16. It wasn't like Mike's car. Like just 2 different financial backgrounds. I
Wow.
would say, like his baby pictures, he has like little gold bracelets on. Yeah, like
I look like little Orson.
yeah. So definitely like more privileged.
I got to see those.
Had a little bit more money growing up than I did. So
Yeah.
Different.
And what's interesting is one thing we had in common when we met that we really agreed on was that my mother was a stay-at-home mom. Her mother was a stay-at-home mom. And I really wanted her to be a stay-at-home mom. That was something that
Yeah.
culturally we really agreed on.
it's just what
And
we knew.
So there were times when I would work, 2 jobs just so she could stay home because that was so, I did not want her to have to work.
Right.
If she wanted to, that's fine. And I know that's very unpopular nowadays. And I think I'm going to say something that's unpopular is I think that's one of the problems with families nowadays is that women don't want to stay home.
Right.
And I think there's something that's God given inside of them to nurture their children. They don't want to stay home. They want to go work and have a career because they feel like it equals them to men. But it doesn't. Men and women are created differently. And there's something that a man wants to conquer and kill and bring home. And a woman makes the home and makes the children a better people,
I think they're equal, just different.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that's the way to say it because both of those jobs are vitally important. It's equal, but it's
Yes.
different.
Yep.
So maybe as far as culturally, not that big of a step, but as far as family, there was some differences there as far as the way y'all were raised. So what was maybe one of the biggest challenges y'all had when y'all got together as far as having to blend somebody that didn't come from a lot and somebody that came from a little bit more and family that, your families were different. What was that challenge?
My family was different, and we were very affectionate people. My mom and dad were very affectionate, and
Yeah.
yours were not.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, like my dad showed his love through work, like hard work and providing, getting us things, So
That's Philip's dad.
me and my sisters talk about that. Like we're just not overly affectionate. We weren't brought up that way. My mom's very affectionate, towards us. Hugs, kiss all the time. Even my dad, every night before he went to bed, we had to go give him a hug and a kiss before we went to sleep. So it's not like there wasn't love there, but it just wasn't overly.
Yeah.
Whereas this is totally different.
Touchy.
Yeah. Like I remember the first week after we were married, we went to go visit his family and we were in church and we're standing there and Mike places his hand on my rear end and I'm like, number one, we're in church, dude. Like I remember feeling like so uncomfortable about this, but his family, that's just how they are. They're very touchy-feely, but I was like, we're in church. You can't do this, so.
And you're getting the realization you're going to get touched and filled a lot.
Yeah, I'm
moving
like,
forward.
wow, this is, yeah, so that's.
You did, you have, you will.
To this day, my dad still kisses me when he greets
Absolutely.
me. Yeah, he
Yeah.
got both cheeks. He kisses, just like that.
Affectionate, warm, very, very, he's just a gentle soul,
Oh.
Yeah.
So, and me and my kids always talk about that.
Right.
So, yeah, different in that
I
regard.
think for us, nothing culturally, but I think family. We come from
Oh,
2 very different
absolutely.
families, and so what do you think was our biggest adjustment, babe?
For me, well, I grew up with just my mom and myself. I had older sisters, but they were, and brother, but they were, 16, 17, 20 years older than I was. So they were out of the house. They never lived in the house when I was alive. And so just growing up with just mom and I never got to see what a marriage was supposed to look like. Not a good one, not a bad one. And I mean, I think it was a good thing because I was more of a clean slate. I just didn't really have any expectations. So I think what I had to figure out what it looked like What is it? What is it? I'm going to live with a man. Okay, I've never seen this done before, except for with my sister. I saw, and she had my sister's had a really good marriage until he passed. I think they were married like 47 years. Wow. And so I got to see them, and their marriage was very good, very stable. But other than that, I think that was an adjustment for me.
Right. Because you met my folks.
Yes.
And by the time she met my family, there had been, revival. There had been people had come to the Lord. My mom, my dad, they weren't partying like they were when I was a kid. And so, everything was pretty solid, pretty loving. And so she meets me. I take her home, and all of a sudden, Laura's the daughter my mom never had.
No, that's the family I always wanted, because they were there, and you got to spend time with them. My mother she was the very best mother she knew how to be, but she worked 2 jobs my entire life. I did not have the nanny. I was the feral child. I mean, I literally started staying by myself when I was about 7 or 8 years old, and she would work till like 1 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
And so I would come home from school, I would fix my dinner, I would, I was by myself until she got home at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
And then I would get up in the morning, she would still be asleep, I'd get myself ready. We're talking 7, 8 years old.
Wow.
And so I didn't really have this loving unit in the house. And so when I met his family, man, I was like, I have a family. I mean,
yeah, and they loved her, still do.
Yeah.
And so that was neat. For you guys, family, you get married, you meet someone, you better ponder who his family is. And
absolutely.
he better ponder who your family is, because
Yeah.
you're not just marrying someone, you're marrying that family.
you are
and,
marrying that family.
Ponder, count the cost.
Yeah.
Look at that. And then also, I think number 2 is just money. Money has such a huge role to play in a marriage. It's one of the number 1 reasons for arguments and strife.
Divorce.
Whether you could have too much money or not enough money. What are you going to do with the money? Are you a saver? Are you a spender? And then ultimately divorce. And so, were there any challenges like that for you guys? You getting married, and the way y'all looked at money, was it different?
We had an unfair advantage because we went to Bible college, and y'all taught us that money and sex are the 2 biggest causes of divorce. So we went into our marriage like defensive of that. I don't think we've ever let money get in the way.
What was money?
What was money?
What was
In
money?
the beginning, it was, what is money?
Yeah,
not in we just spend it, but just as in,
because when we got
hard to come
married,
by.
we had no money. We didn't.
Yeah.
And my,
That's
my
true.
parents, like I said, my parents were going through bankruptcy when I left the house.
Yeah.
So we didn't have our maid had to leave, and so my mom.
Mike
was
was a
cleaning the house.
hustler.
I was.
Thank God for his dad
Yes.
and mom, because they raised him to do whatever it takes to
We
make
had a
it.
strong work ethic. My
Yeah.
mom was always out in the yard working, making us work, and my dad would go to work at 7 in the morning and come back at 7 at night. You know.
He is not afraid of hard work.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what I can say about Mike, is he was raised to, support his family. He did it well. But in the beginning, there was very little money. I don't know. I not to get super spiritual, but it was just God that had his hand on our life, and just, I think, passionately pursuing him, he just took care of us along the way.
I honestly, and not to get super spiritual, but honestly don't know how people get through marriage without God,
Yeah.
because it is so, to me, so necessary to get through and to keep your marriage together. I don't know how we do it.
But Mike was a hustler. In the natural, that was
And
money.
you appreciated it.
Yeah, very
you
much.
You saw it. You appreciated it.
Definitely.
That's one of the needs of a woman is stability and security, knowing that they're going to take care of you. They're going to do whatever they've got to do
Yeah.
to make that happen. That's a big need.
There just real quick, there were times when I started to get like entrepreneurial, when I was starting to take risks with money. This was huge for me because as a husband, I would always look at her and go, are you okay with me taking this risk? Because if not, then I'm not going to put our family into a position where we could be in trouble. And she always backed me. In fact, she was
Wow.
always like, "You need to like go
Oh,
harder.
listen, this is
you need
good.
to go. You need to like push harder. You need to go for it. Why didn't you go bigger?" I'm always like, "Okay." I feel like, So that really, really encouraged me. I didn't always succeed. I made mistakes, but she never like came down or said, "I told you so," or made me feel like stupid, like that I wouldn't try it again.
Yeah.
And
That's huge.
Just
Yeah.
keep me out of the casinos because I'm a gambler. Like
She's the gambler, really.
Really?
Bet it all on black. Like, just if we're gonna do it, then let's go for it.
Wow.
Like,
Yeah.
you know.
That's funny.
I love it.
Did not know that.
Yeah.
No, so he's kind of a balancer in that.
I
you
am.
know.
Yeah.
I think for us, we didn't have any financial differences to overcome.
Every week, we are giving away a free copy of Philip Baker's book on our Instagram. All you have to do to enter is follow our page. Head over to life_in_action on Instagram, give us a follow, and you are entered. Easy as that. Now, back to the show.
We were just both stupid.
Yeah.
We were both ignorant.
Yeah.
And we didn't know anything. We weren't taught anything.
Right.
And we had two old clunkers. Everything I had was in the back seat of my 77 Chevrolet Monte Carlo.
I didn't get a car till I graduated high school, and my ex-boyfriend's parents gave me a 77 Cutlass.
Wow.
So I think
Oh,
our challenge
nice
was learning. And so just kind of speak to that, babe.
Well, and I think one of the things you've got to figure out is there's going to be you're going to each have your own lane. For us, I'm the numbers cruncher.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's my strength. So I'm the one doing the budget. I'm the one reconciling the bank statement. I know people don't even do that hardly anymore, reconcile bank statements, but I'm the one that does that. And because that's my gifting. I flow in numbers. I remember numbers. Philip does not remember any numbers. Do not give him a number. He will not remember a number. We have 3 kids, babe, right? 3.
I know my birthday.
His birthday. Get that? His birthday. I don't know that he knows anybody
exactly.
else's birthday because it's numbers. But then he's the person that does vision. He's the person that figures out what we're going to spend money on. Like, we'll go through and I'll say, okay, this is what we have to spend. These are bills. Okay, now we have this amount of left over. What are we going to do with that? And he would pray. He would, and we would talk it over. We would have conversations, and he'd say, "This is what we need to do with this money. Let's do this with it. Let's do that with it. Let's pay this bill. Let's get out of this
vision,
debt."
the plan.
The vision,
I had
and the
the
plan.
vision, the plan. She implemented the numbers.
Yeah.
And 36 years later, we're still doing the same thing.
Absolutely.
But I will say this: you can't put it all on one spouse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Just
not fair.
cannot do it. It's not.
No.
And, because I'm bent that way with numbers, it would be real easy for him to, and, to be honest, you did that. At the first of our marriage, you just let me handle it because you didn't have to deal with it.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
And so what happened is we look up and we've got like $10,000 in credit card
Yeah.
debt, just debt. Well, and student loans. And so we that's what we had to overcome to start this season that we're in. But until he got involved in it and it was just me, I wasn't carrying it very well. That really wasn't my strength. I could crunch the numbers.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then if he wasn't putting his strength in it, which was what we're going to do with it, how we're going to do this, how we're going to do that, then I was hiding stuff. I was the wife that'd go to Dillard's and wait till he'd go to sleep, and I'd run in and I'd put that up. And I go, "No, baby, this shirt's not new. This dress is it's an old dress. Oh, I got it at Goodwill. I mean,
love it. I love it.
but you both have to bring your strengths.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you both have to know your weaknesses. And I know that for some people, and I just want to talk, of course, you get on finances, that's kind of my deal. But, you've got some marriages that they have different money. Like his money and her money. You pay
Okay,
these
that's
bills,
good.
I pay
That's
these
good.
bills. That's, it works for some people. It didn't work for us.
We're her money's her money and my money's her money.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. I'd never heard of this concept, but I know several people now that, family too, that she makes her money, he makes his money, and I don't know. I mean, if it works, it works.
Well, there's all kinds of reasons that, as I've talked to people throughout the years, there's all kinds of reasons that they do that. Because
Yeah.
you've got one of the spouses is not good with money.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you link them together, they're always causing havoc with the
Yeah.
money because they're just doing their own thing. And I just think that's not a union. That's
Right?
roommates.
It's a trust issue.
It's trust.
Right.
That's what it is. It's trust. And then there are some, like I know with, culture changes now is there's, coming in with a kid or, it's on legal aspects. They keep it that way too. So
Right. There's all kinds of
just a lot of, different variables.
Right.
There is.
Well, that's why this is called Life in Action, and every episode, in some form or fashion, we're gonna talk faith, we're gonna talk family, and when you talk those two things, finances are going to get involved.
Can't avoid it.
Absolutely.
And so we're leaning into that and embracing it with everything. And so we've really talked about the family issues of blending those things when you're married, the financial issues, blending those when you get married. But what about faith? Because there's people out there. We've got atheists, we've got agnostics, we got Baptists, we got Catholics, Methodists, Holy Ghost, Pentecostal, New Age. I mean, there is unlimited amounts of beliefs out there, and how you handle that as a husband and wife is important, and those are things that have to be pondered before that wedding ceremony.
Yeah.
And so, once again, you have to be on the same page, family. Got to be on the same page, finances. Got to be on the same page with your faith.
Yeah.
How could two walk together unless there be an agreement? So,
I
for
think
you
the
guys,
key-
I know y'all met at Bible school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But let me just say this. I think the key is before you get married.
Before you get married.
Before you get married, especially before you get married.
Before you get married.
Because things can change and
Yeah.
stuff. I get it. Two people not saved get married and then get saved. But, man, if you're saved, you're a Christian, you call yourself a Christian, and you're dating someone that is not a Christian and not of the same beliefs, you better count that cost.
Yeah, we got trouble right here in River City.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's really no avenue that's going to work unless you get a miracle, and you don't want to go into a marriage needing a miracle.
Right.
And it really shows up when you have kids. That difference right there.
Right.
That
Tessa.
Yeah.
because as a mom, you all of a sudden that responsibility of bringing that child up in the way he should go and how you were raised,
Right.
it comes in like heavy right there. So definitely, your faith needs to be. I don't know how two people that don't agree how they do that, because it would be interesting. How do you raise a kid with two different, belief systems or, and to go back real quick to something we were talking about finances that I want to say is really finances is the third person in your marriage. Like I really think that. Like that is the third.
good.
That is the third person that is always there. It is
Yeah.
the underlying issue to, basically,
Yeah, it's always there because you always are going to have bills.
Yeah. I mean,
they're-
that person's always in the room with you,
Yes.
no matter what. But
That's good.
back to faith, like we were talking about, it's just, I think like you said before,
But
know
the
this
problem
person.
is there's no before now. It's
That's
because
right.
people are moving in together, living
That's true.
together before they even get married to see if they even like each other. So that just totally, I mean, I know I sound like an old-fashioned dude, but
Well, think about it this way. If you've got two people and faith is really important to one person and it really defines them, well, then they're going to really care about who they connect to.
Yeah.
Okay. But if you've got two people whose faith is really not that important to them, well, then that's when they can cross those boundaries because
Yeah.
to them, I don't care that you're Muslim. I don't care that you're Christian. I don't care that you're Catholic. I don't care
Yeah.
if you're saved. I don't care if you're not saved because it's really not that important to either one of us.
But what it comes down to is if you call yourself a Christian, born again Christian, you are serving God, He is Lord of your life, then what business do you have in dating anyone that doesn't believe that same way?
Right.
And,
And if you can, then it doesn't mean as much to you as you say it does.
absolutely. And the thing is, before, my whole thing is my mom used to tell me, she said, if you don't date a married man, you'll never fall in love with a married man.
that's right. Yeah.
And so if you don't date someone that's not saved, you'll never fall in love with someone that's not saved. And so if you go, oh, I'm just going to go out with him once or twice.
Yeah.
Oh, you're playing with fire because once emotions get involved,
Right.
then you may not make rational decisions.
Decisions,
You
yeah.
make decisions based on emotions, and then it goes back to you make decisions based on well, if they love me enough, and I love them so much, if they love me enough, they'll
Love
come
never
around.
fails.
Yeah.
Love wins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, like, the reality is that I've seen more this way than the other is you will not change that person.
Right.
Like, you think this isn't going to matter, and then you end up married, and then later on in life, you're frustrated because he won't go to church with you, or you're not going to change that person. They went in telling you exactly who they were, and, other than God just doing a work inside of them. Like, a lot of girls think, oh, well, we'll change. He'll change.
And
No?
I'll fix that later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's not fair. That's not even fair to the
Right.
other person.
Yeah.
Right.
That's not fair. They told you who they were. They said, this is who I am. You were okay with it. You married them. And now you go, well, wait a minute, but you knew I wanted you to change. That's not fair.
No.
Miss Laura, what do people do that got married, they weren't saved, and then one of them gets saved, and now they really want the other one to get saved? What do they do?
Well, that's a hard life. Just walking that, trying to figure that out. You've got to have wisdom from God. Absolutely. I do believe you could stand for your spouse. I believe the Bible doesn't give you an out for divorce just
Right.
because of that. If there's not abuse, if it's not, then you're going to have to start praying and believing God.
Yeah.
You're going to stand for that person, and you're going to have to be the only Jesus they see. Maybe
That's it.
Yeah.
You're
Tessa,
gonna
you
yeah.
kind of have experience, or what?
Yeah,
do you think?
that's my mom. Like, my dad did not serve God, and so she will, to this day, she'll say it's hard. She had to get up on Sunday mornings, get all 4 babies ready, and bring them to church. And I mean, we were there every Sunday, every Wednesday, and she did that alone. And it, she will tell you it got hard. It got frustrating and irritating. And
did he ever get saved?
He right before he died, he
Wow.
Gave
She
his life
did
to
all
God.
those years alone.
All those years alone, and like she just said, it gets frustrating because there's such a spiritual responsibility that's placed on one parent. It's up to her if her 4 kids turn out all right or saved, and all those things. So I think just those were some hard times. You got to know that going into this. I mean, I would say
But
Yeah.
but the sacrifice was worth it.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And
I mean-
she just lived her life, and she stood for him to the day he died.
Wow.
She, she just lived by example. And he did. Like, he got to know God through her. And I will say that. He knew, he always wanted her to be at church bringing the kids. He just didn't want to do it himself. And, of course, he shift worked and things like that, too. But, yeah, it's hard. It's hard being the only person.
But now she has grandkids in Bible college serving God because of that choice she
Amen.
made.
Yeah.
Man, that's powerful.
Yeah.
You just got to remember that marriage in itself is work, and it's hard enough.
Yeah.
With all the differences that we've talked about today, you bring all of this culture stuff. You bring 2 people raised in 2 different homes, separate homes, raised differently, thought differently about money, about everything. Marriage is hard enough to
Absolutely.
bring those 2 together. But if you, marrying someone that doesn't believe the same as you, you're adding extra to yourself.
Absolutely. So I think we started off with this statement: marriage is a miracle.
It is.
It's a miracle. Culture, family, finances, faith, for all those things to come together and for there to be agreement,
Yeah.
or at least a level of agreement that you can love one another and walk the path together, it's going to require a miracle. And when I hear the word miracle, I think Jesus. I think God. And so if you're married out there, it's so important that first area of agreement is going to be in y'all's relationship with Jesus. You need to love him more than you love each other.
Yep.
And that's going to give you a grace. It's going to give you the wisdom to be able to blend all these issues together, because God is a miracle, and he can work a miracle in your marriage, and he can show you how to blend all that together. And y'all can walk the path, be heirs together of the grace of life. But then if you're not married and you're listening to this podcast, once again, you have to count the cost. You got to take all these things under consideration, and you have to have some boundaries. You have to have some things you can negotiate. Hey, whether he's got hair or no hair.
Yeah.
Whether he's 5'5" or 6 foot tall. There's some things you can negotiate, but then you're going to find out some things that you can't negotiate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Yeah.
You said that word grace, because there's things in every marriage. meeting someone new is fun and exciting, and then getting married, but after a while, like people can annoy each other, right? You know, like the things.
Not can. Will.
Well, I mean, I know I
Yeah.
do things that annoy Tessa. I know how to annoy Tessa.
Oh, I'm an expert.
Yeah, I know.
I'm
Yeah.
a black belt in annoying Laura. That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, you are.
But it's like you said, grace. It's having to work it out with each other, and it's work.
It's sacrifice.
Some people don't want to do the work.
Yeah,
you know?
marriage is
How
all
about this?
sacrifice.
Find someone who's more focused on having a great marriage than just having a great wedding.
Yeah.
So I think that would be a good little
Wow.
way to end it. Mike, wrap it up, buddy.
Man, good episode. I learned a lot in this episode. I really did, especially from you guys.
I did too. Tessa's a gambler.
I know.
I'll bet it all on black.
We're 5 miles from the Golden Nugget.
We
man.
are. Keep me away.
She is, man.
You got to put one of those kitty leashes on her
I
when y'all
mean-
go out to eat or something. Kitty leashes, so she don't get away.
Seriously, I mean, we're
Yeah.
joking, but like, no, seriously, keep me
You know
away.
what? If I didn't have Tessa in my life, I'd be the most boring person in the world. I would be balancing checkbooks and like counting coins and stuff like that. I would have gone to overseas. I would have never done anything fun. She is the fun in our relationship, and I am the boring. I really am.
Well,
I
it's
thought-
not boring. Absolutely not boring. But it's just because my trust in him. I mean, that's what it is. You can bet it all on black because I know if he loses it all, tomorrow he'll make it back. So it's easy to bet it all. No pressure. Because but I mean, he's gifted in that area. So I mean, there's just a security in me that I'm like, yeah, go
And
for
just
it.
to clarify, Tessa does not hang out at the.
Not every
And that's why we
night.
want you to continue. Hey, listen, keep listening to the podcast because in
Yeah.
episodes that are coming, I'm going to be bringing in some of the greatest men and women of God, ministers, and we're going to talk kingdom. Mike has some incredible business people that he's going to be bringing into this podcast, and we're going to be talking about finances. And so we're just really in for a great time. Life in action. It's going to be fun.
Gonna be fun. Hey, thank you, ladies. Really
Yes.
appreciate y'all. To do it again.
Laura, we can go to the boat.
Oh, let's go.
She'll keep me in line.
I will. God, I'm not going to put a penny in there.
She'll be like, you have 3 cents left. That's it.
All right. Good night.
Good night.
All right.
Follow our podcast for more great episodes and check us out on Instagram at lifein_action. Thank you for listening and live your life in action.